This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by For All Seasons Behavioral Health and Rape Crisis Center.
So if someone were to ask you, are you stressed? Are you overwhelmed? That wasn't funny. Would your first reaction be to just laugh because you are the definition of stress and overwhelmed?
As you can see, it is, and we get it. Been there, done that. It seems like almost every single day.
Now, today, we're going to talk about overcoming stressful situations. And when we're doing it with the help from CEO of For All Seasons, Beth Anne Langrell. Thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Absolutely.
As you can see, we've only been there a little bit in the past.
Just a little bit.
So do you think people are more stressed now than they were in the past?
Absolutely.
Really?
Especially as you look at this last 2 years that we've been in with COVID.
Right.
People are, there were a lot of us who could manage stress before, and now you look at how our lives have shifted and how we have to continue to be, the catchphrase is nimble. I use that word all the time, but what it really means is you have to pivot on a dime, and you might think you're in one direction and you have to move to another and add another layer of something else on top that wasn't expected, and stress results in every situation.
Okay.
So talk to us a little bit about how everyday demands play a role in that stress.
Sure. So, stress is really an environmental scan for you of the things where you can feel yourself being shifted for one reason or another. And it's not to say that all stress is bad. So, if I am coming here and I'm running late, it might be a little bit of, I need to get where I'm going. Or, somebody might have a little bit of stress and anxiety because they've got a test to take. We can manage that piece of it. But when stress becomes something that is infringing on our daily lives, that's where the day-to-day stuff can really start to take a toll on us. And as we're thinking about, masking, no masking, are we open, are we closed, is school in, is school out, flip to a virtual day, our brains just are not set up to process so much at one time. There is a physical response, and there's also a mental response to stress.
I am so glad you said that, because I was going to say, when I feel myself starting to get stressed out, I start to feel it physically, and that's normal?
That is totally normal, because we have something called cortisol in our brains that it lets out more cortisol, so there's more in our brains. But here's the really important thing. Our brains are designed to deal with stress in about 15-minute increments. So when you think about the last 2 years and the stress that's come with it and having to shift and not control things or control things, your body's response is to feel it differently. So maybe some people get a stomach ache, or maybe some people get a headache. But what's really important to understand is that physical response is just as valid as the emotional response. But we need to be mindful that our emotional response is guiding our body. Our body is not guiding our emotional response.
So let's focus on the feeling of being, overwhelmed. How can we determine if we're at that point?
So stress is when you feel a little bit unsettled. You might have something that's on your mind and you think about it. When we shift to overwhelming, it means that you are losing your ability to process and function. And one of the things that I have talked with folks a lot about is what I call the 10-5-2. So when I'm stressed and I am getting to a point where it's becoming overwhelming and it's stopping me from functioning, I'm at a level 10. When you're at a level 10 of stress and it's overwhelming, you might only be processing the stress that you're feeling at a level 5, because that's as much as you can do. That's not the time to try to come up with an answer and a solution, because you're really going to come up with an answer at about a level 2. So if your stress is at a 10, you're really only factoring at a 5, your decision making is going to be at about a level 2. And that's when you need to be mindful of how you're interpreting things, your responses, if you're able to even be able to respond. Some people will say, "You look so overwhelmed, Lisa. How can I help?" And if you're in that overwhelmed state of 10 plus, your brain might just say, I have no idea. I can't come up with that answer, because if you think about that 10-5-2, you're just not in a place to be able to think clearly, and that's when we know that it's infringing on our daily lives.
Okay, so with all that said, now that we've specified the things that are making it happen, can you stick around for a minute and help us out with how to solve it?
Absolutely, because it would be horrible to give you all the bad pieces and not finish up with the good.
All right, that's what we're going to do. And we're spending some time trying to help you battle that stress that sometimes seems to just take over everything.
And with us this afternoon to help with that still is CEO of For All Seasons, Beth Anne Langrell. Thank you for hanging around.
Absolutely.
This is some great stuff here. Now, you're wanting to focus on skills and strategies to overcome the stress. Take 5.
Sure. So, you hear all the time about, like, with little children, they might say, go sit down for 5 minutes. Or you might hear people say, take 5 seconds of a deep breath. That really works. Really what our brains need when we're stressed is the time to be able to reset. And so maybe for you it's 5 minutes, maybe for you it's 5 seconds, but the ability for us to be able to pull ourselves back from that really stressful situation and just take a time out, giving yourself the permission to not always get it right, to recognize when stress is happening and just say, I need a break.
Take 5.
Yeah.
And you can ask for help by phoning a friend, perhaps?
One of the things that I would invite everyone to think about is, who is your tribe? Who is the army that you can call when something is not going right? And so maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's reaching out for a text message, maybe somebody's given you a card that recenters you, whatever that might be. But think about it now when you're not in that stressful situation, so that you can do what I call skill up for the moments where you've hit that 10 mark that we talked about, to be able to say, all right, here's my lifelines. Who are they? What are they? And how can you use them? And the more that we think that through when we're not stressed, the better off we'll be in those situations.
So kind of plan it out. Plan
Absolutely.
what you're gonna do.
Yeah, we all need a plan. And knowing that sometimes the plan has to shift, because that's the other piece of it. Just because it worked one time doesn't mean it's going to work the next. And so being able to have conversations with yourself, I have the whole self conversation all the time. That didn't go so well. What could I do differently? Or recognizing that I might not be able to change someone else's behavior, but what can I instill in me to be able to change differently that won't allow me to be so stressed the next time around?
And of course, when you're right in the middle of all of this storm, it just feels like this is it. This is forever.
Right. And here's the really important thing, and I would absolutely invite folks to think through that when that storm is there and you've got your galoshes and you've got your raincoat on, this too will pass. And I think it's easier said than done sometimes, but we really do have to focus on that really stressful moment that can be triggered by fear or the unknown. We will get through it, we will come out on the other side, and we might not get through it perfectly. We might not get through it the way that we ideally would like to, but the more that we can remember that this is not forever, and that we can get through something by reaching out to those lifelines, by using our 5 minutes. One of the things I talk about all the time is self-care. Don't save your self-care for the weekend. What I've learned through the pandemic is you have to do the self-care on a daily basis. It's a skill, and it's something that we have to practice in order to give ourselves the time and space that we need to feel relaxed and know what we need to do in these tough situations.
You said something earlier that for some reason it really resonated inside me. Breathe.
Yeah, just taking that breath. Just taking the breath to be able to say, here's what I need. And remembering right now, we are in a society where everything has to happen yesterday.
Right.
And sometimes just taking the time and space to say, I need a moment, and giving yourself that space to count to 5, and taking that deep breath in and taking that deep breath out to get your grounding back where you need to be in order to make those best decisions.
The CEO of For All Seasons, Beth Anne Langrell, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.